Today we're making Char Siu barbecue pork, a Cantonese classic. So for this video, we wanted to show you two ways to do this. How to cook it from scratch, but also an easy way in case the from scratch method seems a bit intimidating. So to make Char Siu, we're going to need some Char Siu sauce. First, the easy way. Use Char Siu sauce. Lee Kum Kee makes a real solid sauce, and you can find it all over the world. From scratch, though, is much tastier. Forgive me for a quick backstory here. See, from scratch Char Siu had sort of been my white whale for a while. Because if you search through Chinese sources, usually what you're going to find is people using bottled Char Siu as a base and adding a whole bunch of other ingredients to it. Oyster sauce, sugars, spices, so forth. But I want to know how to make the sauce itself. I'd seen some recipes from international food writers, but they always seemed to produce a result that was never really Char Siu. So we tossed that question of how to get that real deal, old style Char Siu sauce to Steph's food-obsessed Cantonese family. They shot us back the traditional base with one ingredient that I hadn't seen before. Mianchi. Or, as you might know it, red miso. This is the key ingredient that makes Char Siu Char Siu. From there, we needed the Char Siu spice mixture. And then luckily, it's based off the Cantonese lu wei spices. And we found the proper old-style mix in one of our absolutely ancient Cantonese cookbooks. So finally, to start our Char Siu sauce, we're going to mince up some of the white part of the green onion and some ginger. Fry those on medium in the smallest amount of oil you can muster for about a minute until they start to smell real nice. Then add in some liaozhou, some rice wine. Stir that around and then add water and soy sauce. We're adding a 1/4 cup of soy sauce here, 2 teaspoons of which is dark soy sauce, and the remainder being light. Now for the spices. As you can see, we've got like a mountain of different spices here. I'll list all these off, but before I do, just know that probably only about 3 of them are absolutely critical. First, star anise. We'll use about 8 to 10 of these. Second, cinnamon or cassia bark. We'll add in 2 sticks. And lastly, something that might be harder for you guys abroad to find, shajiang, or sand ginger powder. This is one of 4 plants that's sometimes called galangal. Luckily, this ingredient seems to be used quite a bit in Malay and Indonesian cooking. You should be able to find this online under the name kutcheri powder. Awesome ingredient, by the way. To me, it sort of tastes like the love child of ginger and white pepper. The other ingredients we have are dried and aged tangerine peel, prepped by soaking and scratching off the bitter white pith, whole cloves, black cardamom, licorice root, and luohanguo. In general, I wouldn't be overly paranoid about balance here. If you can only get a couple of these other ingredients but not others, just use what you can find. Dump all those in the pot except for the shajiang. Let it simmer on low, and now we'll just play the waiting game. This has got to simmer for at least 30 minutes, but here I let it go for 60. So relax, have a beer, and add in a touch of water if it's reducing a little bit too much. What we're doing here is basically making what's called a lu shui, which is a Chinese braising base. There's a whole category of awesome Cantonese food that's built around this sort of braise, which we'll talk about in a future video. So after an hour, this liquid should be really aromatic and just taste absolutely incredible. Now we're going to strain out all those aromatics and spices, but reserve the liquid. So add 3/4 cup of your liquid, and then to that, just add rock sugar, half a teaspoon of that shajiang, tablespoon of the liquid that comes with red fermented tofu. That red fermented tofu is not only going to help us arrive at that Char Siu color, but it'll also add a nice sour undertone. Also add in your mianchi, the red miso. Your choice of mianchi is going to be really important here. We're using an awesome one from Zhencheng outside of Guangzhou that still makes it according to the old methods. If you're in China, another brand that's good is Fengxianhua. If you can't find those, or if you're abroad, using a Japanese red miso paste will also work great. We're also going to be adding in 1/4 teaspoon of hongchu fun that we ground up. This is red yeast rice, and it'll help us add some color. This is totally optional. You can skip it if you like, or you could also toss in a teaspoon of Hungarian sweet paprika for the same effect. We're going to let this simmer and bring those flavors together until the rock sugar dissolves. If it's simmering away a little bit too much, add in a tablespoon or so of your reserved lu shui braising liquid. Once that rock sugar dissolves, we're going to hit it with our sweetener, mayatang or maltose. Maltose is a Chinese syrup that's used in a few roast dishes, probably most famously Peking duck. It's mild, not overly sweet, and doesn't really have any strong malt flavor. It's really going to help give this sauce its characteristic sheen. If you've never worked with this before, I swear to God, this might be the stickiest substance known to mankind. If you can't find this, try natural honey with no sugars added. Mix that together, and then jar it up. Congratulations. You now have a traditional homemade Char Siu sauce that puts Lee Kum Kee to shame. Now, let's use the stuff. We're using 2 cuts of pork here. The traditional cut is called mei rou, which is basically a Boston butt with some fat still attached to it. We also really like pork neck, jujing rou here, and some people also like pork belly, which is cool too. You're going to cut these into strips about 1 inch high and 2 inches wide. If you've ever been to a Tang, you know those iconic strips of Char Siu that they hang up in the window? That's what we're aiming for here. Now we gotta marinate this. Our marinade is 3 parts Char Siu sauce, either Lee Kum Kee or homemade, and 1 part soy sauce. Poke some holes in the pork to help the marinade seep in. Toss it in a Ziploc bag, massage it, and marinade. At least overnight, 48 hours is ideal. Especially if you're using this mei rou Boston butt cut, which is a tougher meat, this longer marinade time is going to be really important. Okay, so now that it's a day later, we wanted to show you 2 techniques to cook your Char Siu. One using an oven, and one mimicking the Chinese restaurant oven using a Western-style charcoal grill and a Dutch oven. I really like this setup here. What we're doing is setting up a 2-zone heat on a charcoal grill and then nestling a cast iron Dutch oven inside the cool side. Then you can skewer the ends of your Char Siu and hang them up in your Dutch oven to get a quite similar cooking method as the restaurants. A couple soaked lychee or applewood chips might be cool here too. A trick to make these cook evenly is to lay like a wet paper towel over top of the Char Siu. Otherwise, the top of these strips are going to burn. Place the Char Siu strips in your grill and wait. This is likely to take a while, and because charcoal can be pretty variable, an instant read thermometer will probably be handy. Alternatively, you can absolutely use an oven. Preheat your oven to 275 degrees. All y'all that are outside China, I'm really jealous of your ovens. They'll be much easier to cook than this little halogen sucker. Put the Char Siu in a roasting tray, or just get creative like we did here. For the oven, we're going to roast this for 1 hour. Whatever method you use, we're going to be taking the Char Siu out and basting this a few times when it's cooking. Our basting sauce is going to be a mix of 1 part Char Siu sauce with 1 part honey. This is what makes this蜜汁叉烧or honey Char Siu. We're going to baste this 3 times when it's cooking. For the oven, I do this exactly every 15 minutes. The 15-minute mark, the 30-minute mark, and the 45-minute mark. With the grill, it's a little less exact. Here I did it once about every 20 minutes, but just baste it when it looks like it's getting a little dry. Once the Char Siu is done, brush the Char Siu with a little bit more of the Char Siu sauce and some oil. Then let it rest, preferably in a hanging position like this. This has got to rest at least 30 minutes before chopping. Now that the Char Siu is rested, cut them up. It's a nice roasted Char Siu. Have a pork feast or save them and toss them into noodle soups, baozas, or stir fries. Hope you guys give this a try. If you like the recipe, subscribe for more Chinese cooking videos. And as always, there's going to be a detailed, in-depth recipe in the Reddit comment that I've linked in the description.